Alright, continuing what I was talking about last time, because I kind of ran out of time. In particular, what I meant by FromSoft making the Elden Beast resistant to holy damage being a quote-unquote bold move. Like, what did I mean by that? Well, essentially, what I mean by that is, remember how I said before that there's really no wrong answer from a mechanical standpoint in how you build your character? But if you don't know what you're doing, you could make the game harder for yourself. That's kind of indicative of what I mean by, bold move. Because the Elden Beast, it's got like an 80% damage resistance to holy damage. So, basically, if your build depends predominantly on holy damage, like if you have a weapon that uses holy damage or only incantations that use holy damage, the fight's going to be significantly harder for you. Like, let me see here. There's also a similar thing in Volcano Manor. Most of the enemies there are either extremely resistant to or immune to fire damage. So if you like to use fire spells and you go to Volcano Manor, you're pretty much just gonna have to rely on a melee weapon. The physical damage it does, if it's split between fire and physical. Not all enemies in Volcano Manor, but the majority of them, like the snakes, the slugs, the Iron Maidens, they're particularly resistant to fire damage. But yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. So I was gonna go through. I did way more work than I needed to on this, but I made a comprehensive list of every single weapon and incantation in the game. There's no sorceries that I could find that deals holy damage. So if you use any of the following: the Blade of Calling, the Black Knife, the McKellen Knight's Sword, the Golden Epitaph, the Coated Sword, the Gargoyle's Black Blade, the Inseparable Sword, Ordovis's Great Sword, Golden Order Great Sword, Sacred Relic Great Sword I put in here, but that's the one you get for beating the boss in the first place, so your first time through you won't be able to use it against them, and by then you should probably know that it's not a good idea. Malekith's Black Blade, the Eclipse Shotel, Gargoyle's Black Blades, Gargoyle's Black Axe, Envoy's Horn, Marika's Hammer, the other weapon you can get from the boss, etc., etc. Envoy's Longhorn, Staff of the Avatar, Envoy's Great Horn, the Cleanrot Spear, the Tree Spear, Siluria's Tree, Gargoyle's Black Halberd, Golden Halberd, the Halo Scythe, the Wing Scythe, the Cipher Pata, and the Erdtree Great Bow. For incantations that use holy damage, we have Black Blade, Discus of Light, Elden Stars, Law of Causality, Litany of Proper Death, Golden Order's Blade, Radagon's Rings of Light, Triple Rings of Light, and Wrath of Gold. That is a total, weapons and incantations combined, of 37 wrong answers to how to beat the boss. So if you use any of that, your options are twofold. Either you're going to have to respec and invest time in upgrading new equipment, or you're just going to have to slog it out with a boss that only takes about 20% damage from your attacks. Alright, well, it's easy to criticize. How would I fix it? Well, I would fix it very simply. They did it before. And the weird thing is in the game they did it, they didn't need to. And that would be give the player the option not to fight Radagon, not to fight Radagon at all. They did the same thing with Garamond in Bloodborne. You had the option to say, no, I don't want to do the final boss fight. I'm good. I just want to see the end credits. And then Garamond would cut off your head, and that would be the end of the game. And it would make sense in character, because, if you're... This is a role-playing game, after all, and if you're role-playing a cleric that uses the power of the Erdtree, as a weapon, as part of your build, in character, you really wouldn't want to kill your god, even if it was the last boss of the video game. So yeah, if you have predominantly, I mean, maybe you do, I've never tried it, but as far as I know, there is no secret ending where if you only use holy damage weapons and spells, where the game just lets you pass the boss by. Because, like, oh, you're a servant of the Elden Beast. You wouldn't kill it. It wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, basically you're only... Like, that's how I would fix it. I would be like, if the game, like, detects that you're only using holy damage spells and have not used anything else, and it gives you the option not to basically defy your god. Let's see. And that's really all I have in continuation for that. I managed to spend an hour last video complaining about literally 2 things in Elden Ring, so I don't really want to continue past that. Let me just close out this document here. And, yeah, the first video I uploaded, the second one still processing, has gotten a grand total of 2 views. So, yeah, there won't be a question and answer segment this time, because I'm literally only asking those questions of myself. And maybe the next video will get 3 views. I don't know, but I have learned not to care over much about what the subject matter is going to be. You can look at this is still very much in the experimental stages. Also, I'm thinking of shortening the title to just Talking Nonsense, so that the actual title of the video in its totality will show up, which honestly doesn't matter either way. But, I guess I should talk about what... Well, here, I'm just basically speedrunning through Stormvale. Like, that's it. I've done this, like, 7 times, so I know the quickest route to get to the boss, and that's just what I'm doing. This is actually a combination of 2 bits of total 2-hour-long raw footage, because I had to cut about 90% of the footage because it was boring, and it was just me doing the same thing over and over again. I basically took a chainsaw to this whole thing. So, yeah, what do we discuss? I don't know. I'm not really sure, honestly. Didn't have a subject lined up or anything. Just gonna... whatever comes to mind, I guess. Here real quick. Waiting for something to load on my computer. Ah, here we go. Enjoy the dead air. Alright, cool. Well, anyway, let's just enjoy this little shortcut. This might be helpful to some people who bother watching this, which, considering the last video had practically... I mean, I'm pretty sure one of those views was myself, just to make sure the video uploaded properly. So the one person who watched the last one, and whoever, if anyone, watches the next one, which I sincerely doubt it's going to get any views at all, barring me looking at it to see if it actually works. I will say that I am actually kind of surprised that it uploaded in HD at all. That was new. I was actually fully prepared in this video to add another apology to the first one, which now seems completely unnecessary. Not for any good reason, mind you. Usually that comes across as, oh, people didn't mind it all that much. It was fun. Yeah, no, I didn't expect that video to get any views, but boy, it does put into stark light just how completely, how much of a waste of time doing all that apology stuff is. And well, I wonder if the question and answers segment is even going to be viewed at all. I mean, granted, it's the questions and answers segment is me having a one-sided conversation with a straw man, so maybe it's best that no one watches that. So, yeah. It's kind of compartmentalizing and prioritizing where this is going to go from here. And I guess the answer to that is anywhere the hell I want, because it literally doesn't matter. Anyway, here's me running away from some rats. You're going to see that a couple of times in this video. So you can enjoy that. There's a little shiny thing there. I won't be picking that up because I don't want to have Spell, and Rancor Call is an absolute cancerous piece of shit. I'm not saying that From should buff it, but I am saying it's useless. Absolutely useless. So, From, you do what you want with that information. It's your game. I'll tell you how to run your show. Here's me fighting the, it doesn't have a name. Basically, the monster from Children of the Corn 3. So there you go. There's the monster from Children of the Corn 3. Say hi to him. Time has been kind to him. We didn't really see that. That is a weird horror series. The first one was, it's based on a Stephen King novel, short story. I think it was a short story, but yeah, it's in the same vein as The Lawnmower Man, except Stephen King actually signed off on it, unlike The Lawnmower Man, which was just a sort of Stephen King film knockoff based on a short story that he did that has nothing to do with the movie at all. And I have a weird, I have a weird memory of this, because I can't remember if Pierce Brosnan was the Lawnmower Man or the protagonist. It don't matter anyway, but I genuinely have a very warped memory of that movie. That's what happens when you watch a horror film when you're, like, barely, I think, what was it, like, 9, 10 years old? I'm going to be 36 very soon this year, so, yeah, it's... And I haven't seen it, I've seen no reason to watch the film again. I don't particularly remember having any strong feelings of it, or that would allow me that would lend to watching it again. So, but yeah, back to Children of the Corn. First film was awful. I remember that. I watched that when I was around 20 years old. I remember absolutely thinking that film was it was the first exposure I had to the idea that Stephen King might not be a very good director. And then it went down a whole rabbit hole of his films and or miniseries. And it was just he I mean, I don't think he's a particularly good writer, but he is an awful director. Like, it's one of the, as a writer, it's one of those things where it's like, everyone has their opinion, acquired taste, this and that. He must be doing something right to make the money he's making and all that, etc., etc. He's an indisputably bad director. Like, I don't know. Even the most recent film that he, I wouldn't say directed, but the most recent adaptation of his work, well, actually, no, that isn't a remake or a rehash or a redo, which was Dreamcatcher, was a mess. Like, it was a mess. They somehow managed to make, what was it, Morgan Freeman look bad. I don't know how you do that. I don't know what the hell happened there. I don't know how you make Morgan Freeman look, I wouldn't say incompetent, but devoid of his natural charisma. The guy can talk about penguins for 2 hours, for fuck's sakes. I don't know how you'd make him seem like a boring character. It just baffles me. But back to Children of the Corn. Second one, didn't see it. It was the second one with the weird root monster. Like, oh, he who walks behind the rose. What could that mean? I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that discussion with the art department. Like, okay, so we have to actually show this he who walks behind the rose. And like, it's a root. We'll make a root monster, like a worm with lots of tendrils and stuff. It'll look great. Or, you know, it could look like an inverted sock puppet with mold growing off of it, made out of silly putty. But hey, the limitations of the time, I guess. Weird stop-motion claymation monster. Like, just all of a sudden, in this live-action film, a Roger Corman monster bursts out of the ground. And then that's what I remember most about is looking at as a child and just absolutely laughing. And little tendrils grabbing onto sickles and scythes and whirling them around. That would actually make a good... That thing would make a good Bloodborne monster. If designed properly. Just a weird, writhing worm with sickles. Just being grabbed by its wiggly little tendrils and just whirling around at it. I mean, actually, nothing about it. I'm just kind of describing the noble scion. Alright, now maybe they did it. I wouldn't begin to think that someone from Software took inspiration from Children of the Corn 2. But at the same time, I mean, it's not an impossibility. Considering Hemwick and the dancing ladies from this game, which are basically just the witches of Hemwick, but you know, more lively, in that they dance constantly. That is an eerie scene in this game. We might get to that. The windmill village. That is the first time in this game that I felt genuinely, not put off, but felt a genuine sense of, I wouldn't say dread. What is the word here? Creepiness, off-puttedness. What is the word I'm looking for here? Displacement? I don't know, but it creeped me out, is what I'm saying. It creeped me out quite a bit. Like, just this feeling of something is wrong with what's going on. And the more I looked at it, the more I noticed that their faces were in a sort of rictus grimace. That they weren't smiling, they were snarling. And their bodies that were covered in blood were, you know, like, their ceremonial garb was also stained and caked in blood as well. And then, you know, then you fight them and you pick up, if you're lucky, you pick up one of their weapons and you notice that it's made of human bone. And it's like, oh wow, something is definitely wrong here. It was... I like moments like that in these games, where it's just, you know, it looks kind of normal. There's something a bit off about it, but, you know, just at glance, you know, you kind of think, oh, well, it's a fantasy land. It's supposed to be kind of weird. And then the more you look at it, the more unsettling and then horrifying it becomes. This game is, like, full of that. Right down to the character design. Like, if you've ever really got the opportunity to look at a grafted scion. Oh, right, and I mentioned before that I was going to put links in the description for... That's not happening. It don't matter. I do not want to do a disservice to the people that I mentioned in that video by affiliating them with my garbage. Like, I genuinely think that by the last viewer count, that me putting those videos in the description at all would be a black mark on the genuinely high-quality efforts, the genuine high-quality efforts that they put in to their videos. And I don't want to taint the quality of their work with the drivel that is that this channel is associated with. Speaking of which, we can, since I'm kind of running out of stuff to talk about, we can go over my previous videos, my itinerary, which, I'm going to be honest with you, the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm putting serious consideration into just delisting the whole lot of them.
whatever road takes us.
Because what we have here is a video of Destiny, a video of an attempted, what do we see here? Around 9 parts of an attempted and failed playthrough of Dying Light, followed by a bunch of stuff from Bloodborne, one of which has like 95 views and 1 like, which I don't understand why that is. It's just a video of me being summoned in as an addled hunter, a blood-addled hunter, backstabbing a guy before he fights the boss. And then a video where I forgot that my microphone was on, and you can barely hear me, and I say the words "bad flaming chinchilla" at the very end. That has a grand total of 5 views, which is what it is, which is more than it deserves, honestly. Oh hey, we're talking over dialogue. I don't care. I don't care. I mean, I might lower the volume on this so you can hear him, but I'm gonna keep talking. I'm not even paying attention to the footage anymore. Oh, a video of Darksiders 2 called Conservation of Kung Fu, which I don't know what the hell that is. The time I tried the whole Moonlight Covenant in Dark Souls 3, and it absolutely failed. And another video that has like 18 views, which is how to practice your parry, which has at least helped 18 people, I guess. And then some Devil May Cry 5 stuff, it's about a minute long. And then the previous video to the first entry in this quote-unquote series. Now, and here's me fighting a Shardbearer, which I teased last time, for all it matters. Here's Godric. We're gonna have fun fighting him. I mean, I'm in kind of a dour mood, but this is a fun fight. It's kind of a shame that weapons kind of suck. So you're basically just beating him for his Great Rune, which is fine up until you reach a certain level, and then a mere 5 points into your attributes doesn't really matter anymore. But he's a pretty interesting guy. This despot grasping at power so fervently that he is literally just acquired as much raw material as he can to ascend himself into being worthy as a lord. Oh yeah, I'll say this is I kind of like the concept of him saying truest of dragons, when that's a wyvern. And a rather diminutive one at that, when you compare its size to the other wyverns that you fight in this game. So it's not only a lesser dragon, it's a shit lesser dragon. And even that, it's a rotted corpse of a shit lesser dragon. That's how warped Godric is. He's so desperate for power that he will literally just he will literally associate might with even the weakest among the mighty. He's just like he's basically a what you call a dark reflection of the main character. I mean, you're basically just a weakling scavenging for scraps. Like, you're basically homeless. You have no renown. No one knows who the hell you are. And you're just basically getting by on other people's shit. You know, secondhand spells, secondhand armor you get off of dead bodies, or that you earn from quests. Like, you're basically just like a vulture almost, like a jackal rummaging around through everyone else's trash. And that's kind of what Godric is as well. He's basically in the same boat as you, only he has a reputation to uphold. He is he is of the golden lineage. I don't know, it's kind of I almost kind of look at it like, just pointing at the ground. Yeah, you're no better than him, asshole. Look at it like anything that anyone says about Godric is more a reflection of the reputation that he, as you'd say, the notoriety that he has failed to live up to. Whereas you have the benefit of a clean slate. You're in the same boat. You're just doing it in a different way. You're vying for scraps to barely survive a world that is extremely hostile to you. But for as hostile as it is to Godric, I don't think I sympathize with him. But I can definitely see a correlation between the Tarnished, your character, and Godric. The only real difference is that people expected Godric to be hot shit, and it turns out he wasn't. Whereas no one expects a damn thing from you. So you being a homeless, feckless whelp of no renown is par for the course. You basically get to start from zero, whereas Godric was born into privilege and couldn't match up to the reputation of his forebears, and so he's chastised for it. Which, you could say that's fair or unfair, but I think it has a lot to do with the motivations with his motivations as a villain. Like, if you were born into a lineage that was basically of the most renowned heroes and figures of legend, and you were just a guy, you'd have a bit of an inferiority complex. You can imagine if Alexander the Great lived long enough to have kids. Imagine his kids. Maybe he did have a few kids, but imagine like an actual proper historical heir. Hey! Maybe he did. Yeah, but anyway, that's beside whether he did or not. I'm not a historian. That's beside the point. Imagine the reputation that the expectations that kid would have to live up to. The guy who conquered the Persian Empire, what do you do with that? How do you live up to that? Whereas the same thing as Godric is of the same line as Godfrey, which is basically this world's Norse, Viking-esque warrior Jesus. He's basically the strongest warrior ever. He was such a strong warrior that God, itself made him its champion. How do you live up to that? So, Godric basically couldn't. And his grafting was just a desperate attempt to try at all costs, which is kind of what you're doing. You're desperately trying anything at all costs to survive and even triumph against creatures, against beings, against gods and demigods and champions that rightfully look at you as merely an insignificant insect. I find Godric. That's another thing I like about. I mentioned what I liked about boss fights before. It's something I like about villains. At least good, well written villains. I have two philosophies on that. A well written villain should at once be a dark reflection of the protagonist. Just the same as the protagonist, same basic idea as the protagonist, but twisted in a way. And also, by that virtue, it should also challenge the idea that what you're doing might inevitably lead to that dark or twisted outcome. Kind of like a shadow of the protagonist, in a way. Kind of like Batman. Yeah, kind of like Batman. Like early Batman, not whatever the hell they're doing. I mean, granted, the last Batman film was... Someone asked me my opinion on it, and I have two conflicting opinions on that as well. On the one hand, the film did not need to be 3 hours long. No film, unless you're talking about Seven Samurai, no film needs to be over 2 hours. Heck, I would even go as far as saying no film needs to be over an hour and 30 minutes. But also, oh, and it wasn't particularly well written either. I guess it's in the criticism I can make about that. It wasn't. There were the acting, although good, felt extremely unnatural in parts, and there were certain events that transpired in the film that kind of made me question my understanding of social graces in a lot of instances. I won't get into any details, but they involve Selena Kyle. Not criticizing her specifically, just the scenes that were happening around her. Not all of them, just a good majority. In particular, the ones where Bruce and Selena were doing anything together. I could not get a feel for what was supposed to be the emotional or narrative focus in any of that. And maybe that's my fault. And I go so far as to say that it would make me feel a lot better about the film if I just thought it was my fault, but I don't know if it was. However, in light of that, or maybe in spite of it, I'm not sure, it is the single most faithful portrayal of the Batman, in my opinion, as a character. It is like the Batman in that film is the most Batman he has ever Batmaned. The story might be overly inflated. There might be parts in it that are I wouldn't say incomprehensible, but definitely hard to follow. Like, the first 30 minutes is a good example of that. Although, it would have made a good music, but the first 30 minutes would have made a great music video. Not particularly a good opening to a film. But still, was stylistically very, very striking and memorable. But yeah, it's... in spite of all that, that is the best Batman I have ever seen. And I remember watching the Tim Burton films, the two of them, and the other ones. We don't want to talk about those. But yeah, that of all of it, even counting the Nolan films, that like the latest Batman, and of course Affleck, the latest Batman is the most accurate. Like when you think of Batman as a character, I can't help now but think about the latest iteration from the film, the latest film. That is as faithful an adaptation to the characters it's ever been. While the film, I didn't like the film all that much, I would love to see that Batman again in something that's a bit more well written and well paced. I would absolutely love to see that Batman again. And I mean, let me just look up the let me see if there's even a chance of that. That didn't spell that right. Batman box office numbers. The Batman box office numbers are terrible. Oh. Alright, cool. Well, I guess we're never going to see that Batman again. Maybe they'll give the job back to Affleck again, huh? Great. Well, you know, the people have spoken, as they say. Oh, that's depressing. Warner Brothers, after decades, finally got it right, and the people said no. Cool. I mean, honestly, I don't know what the problem is. I think the adaptation is perfect. Oh, wait, no, I know what it is. The discussion I had, they also disagree with it. They think Batman should be Superman with a fucking mask. That's cool. But, oh, he got his ass kicked a lot in that film. Yeah, because he's a dude. Let's go off on a tangent with that. That's actually, you know what, let's watch this real quick. I gotta prepare this one. There we go. Fuck you, you stupid crayfish. And those are crayfish.
You, is it? I didn't notice you there. I'll be doing my job, same as ever. Just lay out your arms.
Alright, yeah, those are crayfish, not lobsters. Lobsters are saltwater crustaceans, crayfish are freshwater. It's called Liurnia of the lakes. Which lakes are freshwater, not saltwater. I hope I put that to bed right now. If you care, if you don't, then I don't care. I'm gonna call them crayfish. But yeah, most people want Batman to be basically Superman who wears a mask. And you're not a Batman fan. I don't want to gatekeep, but that's you don't want Batman. You want a superhero that wears, like, you want the, like, I don't know what you want, but I find that most people who like the Batman films, or that like Batman at all, tend to be closet Superman fans who just want to say they like Batman to seem more, I guess, original, or I don't know, special. I don't know what the deal is there. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Batman myself, but I understand the point of the character as it is now. The point of it is that he's a regular guy. He's basically like Ahab. He is a person whose obsessions have transcended his physical limitations. He's not doing stuff. He's not doing the superhero thing because he feels a great responsibility. I guess that's a good example of how Batman is differentiated from other superheroes, and where most people kind of miss the point. Like you say, like Superman or Spider-Man or what have you, they're doing what they're doing because they have been gifted the power, gifted a specific amount of power, naturally, and they elected to use that power for good. You know, to fight the people who have that power, who have the similar amount of power, but who use it in an exploitative way. Whereas Batman, he's got money. And because of the secretive nature of his, of his obsession, he can't outwardly, like, the worst thing that they did, he can't outwardly use, let's finish the sentence, outwardly use that power to help him. Like, he has to do it secretively. Like, the worst thing they did in both the comics and in the Nolan films was Fox. The idea that there was someone in the company. I mean, I guess they had to justify how he was using his money secretively to develop all this equipment and stuff. I think that, and this is the one thing that I liked about the newest Batman film, is he didn't have that. He gets his equipment through clandestine black market deals that I guess Alfred covers up or something. That's one of the part of the badly written thing is it does do away with the whole idea that he has a person in the company helping him out. Is that there's only so far you can go with that. realistically speaking, Bruce Wayne should have been like removed from the board of his own company just by virtue of misappropriating the company's funds. And it wouldn't take much for a particularly enterprising, business-savvy villain to see where the money is flowing into, and it's raining right now, so that's coming through on the recording, I don't care. But to discern that maybe the guy who's putting all of his money into weapons defenses and doing literally nothing with it might have some relationship with the guy running around here with this mobile tank car. But yeah, I've never liked the idea that Bruce or Batman or however you want to refer to him in this instance has someone on the inside of his company wiping away all of the extremely indulgent expenditures. Because it gets to the point where how much could Fox possibly hide? I mean, it was even a point of the third Nolan film where Fox basically goes to Bruce Wayne and goes, "Hey man, I don't know how much longer we can keep hiding this shit. Like, you're making some pretty big and reckless moves here." Or was it the second one? I don't know, but it was like that was the only time it was ever really addressed, as far as I know. And I think, well, you know, this is one of those things where you kind of created the problem for yourself. It could have just been that Bruce just, you know, uses his money alone in black market deals to get equipment secondhand, which he doesn't have to involve Wayne Enterprises at all. I mean, I've never seen, I've never, I never liked the idea that Bruce would actually involve the company itself with his name on it if he wanted to keep his identity secret. That seems like a really, really stupid idea. But yeah, that's all Bruce has is his intelligence, his ingenuity, and a shit ton of money that he has to be very, very, very careful how to spend, which limits the amount he can spend. So even that quote-unquote power is gimped in a way. Apart from all that, he's just a guy. He's not bulletproof. He doesn't have psychic powers. He's just a dude. He's just a smart dude who knows how to fight. You know, knows mixed martial arts, has a relative understanding of how the underworld works. And I mean, heck, they even in the comics he's said to have an eidetic memory, which means you can see something for the first time and memorize it and retain it perfectly. Whereas in the newest Batman, he doesn't even have that. He uses technology to basically a camera that not even a camera. It's basically recording software in the form of really weird looking contact, like really futuristic contact lenses that you can put into your eyes and into your camera. That'd be kind of cool technology. You have a Polaroid inside your skull. But yeah, he doesn't even have a good memory. Like that is why I think that most people don't consider him consider that version of Batman to be a faithful adaptation, because they go out of their way to exploring just how human he is and how he overcomes his limitations as a normal person. Like all of the, which I kind of like. I like the idea that Batman's greatest superpower, as cheesy as it is his reputation. Like all the things that people like admire him for / fear him for are just a product of, for lack of a better term, him understanding his branding. Like, okay, I need people to think of me like this. I am not that at all, so how can I make people think this is me? What can I do? And that's his only real gift is he understands the value of public opinion. Speaking of public opinion, here's me invading. And I said before in the first entry that... it was the second entry, that I don't like to invade unless I have to. You're about to see why. So let's sit in silence and enjoy this. You're going to see some incredible experiences here. Well, not this one. Actually. This one I realized that the game put me so far away from the... I realized that the other guy is basically just standing there. waiting for me, and that there isn't much of a way for me to get down from there, so I just hooked myself off of a cliff. He's doing his... He's having fun over there, getting hit by the frenzy. And I see, rather than walking over there all the way, that if I could just jump down here, and yeah, that dip was a bit more than I thought it was, so I die immediately. But don't worry, the next two are going to be at least not that. But yeah, I guess back to Batman, which I like that aspect of him. I like the idea that he's just a regular guy, and all the things that you think are his special qualities and powers are things that he had to invent. Like, they're just an invention of his reputation. He's a fraud, basically. I like that idea of a superhero getting by only on how other people see them. Like, the idea that this regular dude has such a grasp on what they need to be and who they are, that they know exactly what their weaknesses are, where their shortcomings are, and how to obfuscate them or circumvent them. I like that idea of the resourceful hero more than the all-powerful power fantasy hero. And most people don't want to see Batman that way. They want him to be like the Dark Knight. You know, they want his reputation to precede him, not define him. And I've never understood that. I don't see that that's the point of the character. Like, we're talking about a guy who's so good at understanding how to make himself bigger than what he is, that he's best friends with a guy that can jump over a building and fly into the sun. There's some... I can't help it. Oh, whoa, there we go. Oh, wow. Here's me trying to do a gesture to a guy who probably can't see me. And these guys just... That's that guy. Oh yeah, guess which one kills him. I'll give you a... It's probably the guy whose ping is somewhere in the negatives? Yeah. Yeah, I literally can't dodge what he's doing. He still thinks I'm over there. I probably am. I don't know. Here's me taking off those god-awful fucking phantom fingers. That's a bad idea. Being caught by dogs. Nice. Actually, hey, it was the host. Good job, host. They still think I'm big. Oh god. Wait, what was it? Scotch tape and clown jizz is what I refer to what my internet is held up by? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. You want to stop talking about Batman? No, not really. But yeah, most people want Batman to be what they want him to be what the other characters in his story view him as, which I guess is indicative of the problem of Batman, of a Batman-focused story in and of itself. The idea that this guy is supposed to be this otherworldly, almost ghostly phantom of fear. You can't really do his story justice from his point of view in that case, can you? I mean, heck, the best depiction of Batman I've ever seen was Batman Year One, which is a story told entirely from Jim Gordon's perspective.
Hey!
Like, there's something to that. I'm kind of confused as to why no one's ever considered that. What if, like, you know, this is one of those have your cake, like, I believe the newest iteration of the newest depiction of the Batman from his perspective is the most accurate it's ever been, but that's never really been a good way to tell his story, considering, like I said, he's a character that that is kind of dependent upon the secondary characters looking at him a certain way. Now, you can argue that you can make Batman more sympathetic, and no, actually you can't, because they've tried making him sympathetic, and the 2 times they did it, this film and the third Elden film, showing him his very human qualities, showing him injured, broken, vulnerable, and everyone fucking hated it. Except for me, I kind of liked it, but you get the idea. Whoa. What the hell was that spell? That was neat. I want that. Yikes. Oh, that guy rocking. Anyway, I'm salivating over a potential acquisition later. But yeah, the idea is kind of like, that's not what people want. They want to be among the secondary characters. They want to see Batman as the phantom of justice that they want him to be. He's not that. And you know, the idea behind that is that he is a vulnerable, emotionally and physically vulnerable human being. But people obviously don't want that. So my proposal is, why not make the audience among those that are viewing him from the outside?
You've completed your final and with this,
why does a Batman film have to be from the perspective of Batman? One would think, because of how he works as a character, that would be the last thing you would want to do. You don't want to see the man behind the curtain. I mean, maybe you do, but you shouldn't. You want to see Batman as a... There's my little dragon eyes there. You can say goodbye to those. You want to see Batman as a force of nature. You know, as powerful... Well, not as powerful, but, you know, as interesting or as compelling a character as Superman is powerful.
Oh, good heavens.
And you can't really do that from his perspective, because from his perspective, he's a regular dude, and you can give him anything. You can give him the personality of George Clooney. You can give him the power armor of Iron Man, like they did in Superman versus Batman. You could explain his origin over and over again, making it as realistic or as overblown or fascinating as you want. You can give him diatribe of heroic dialogue upon diatribe of heroic dialogue, and at the end of it all it does is serve to make him more human, more relatable, which isn't really faithful to the character. And, you know, Batman's desired reputation in the world that he lives in. He doesn't want to be viewed as a person. He wants to be viewed as a monster, because you know, the whole idea is that he is basically the boogeyman to the boogeymen, the bad guy to the bad guys, the thing that they should fear. And you can't really portray that from his perspective. You can't really portray something that should be terrifying from the perspective of the thing that people are scared of. I mean, I kind of made this correlation that the video game Katamari Damacy is a video game where you play as the monster. Like, you're playing as a creature that's rolling up, you know, meaningless object. It's like a monster movie. It starts off like rolling up harmless things like thumbtacks and whatnot, and then at the end of the monster movie, you're rolling up buildings and then islands, and then you like the very gods. Like, you roll up like a Tibetan god or a Japanese thunder owning. Like, you used to become like you even roll up like a weird allegory of Godzilla at one point. You just become this force that can't be stopped. And from everyone else's perspective, you know, it's terrifying. You're running around screaming, and you know, all chaos, all hell's breaking loose. Buildings are being ripped out of the ground. This is terrible. But from your perspective, it's a light and colorful, fun children's game. Which, that's how a monster would probably view its rampage. It's just it having a bit of fun. So you can't really view Batman, honestly, as intended from the perspective of the main character, because it's just going to be a typical superhero film, which I think does a disservice to the character itself. But yeah, that's about it. That's why I think that the latest Batman is a perfect adaptation, and why I can understand of the character from their perspective, and why I can understand why people would disagree, and the way to sort of kind of have a middle ground between the two. If you like genuinely want to have like the super Batman, but also be a faithful adaptation, it'd be to do what Year One did, and that's to tell a story from someone else's perspective. Anyway, I have completely run out of time, and we'll pick this up next time. Probably not talking about Batman next time, though. I think we've done that enough. Bye.